Welcome to Horror Docs. Today we're talking about something that starts innocently enough for most of us. Connection. Maybe a first date, meeting someone new, even catching up with an old friend. We sort of put ourselves out there hoping for something good. But sometimes these moments, these seemingly normal encounters, they just take a terrifying, really unexpected turn. So today we're going to share 4 pretty unsettling real-life stories where trust was just shattered and danger really came out of nowhere. These accounts come straight from the people who lived through them. Our goal is really just to tell their stories, focus on those critical moments, the stark realities they faced.
And it's more than just telling the stories, isn't it? These narratives, they offer some really crucial insights. They really drive home how vital it is to trust your instincts, but also how normal social pressures, like trying to be polite or avoid making a scene, can actually become dangerous vulnerabilities. It's about seeing those red flags, even the subtle ones, and acting on them.
Absolutely. So let's dive into our first story. We're calling this one the Halloween Nightmare. This happened to a young woman. She was a sorority member just a couple of years back. Her life really changed completely on the night of her sorority's Halloween grab date. If you're not familiar with Greek life stuff, it's basically a party where you invite one specific person as your date. So she'd recently met this really gorgeous football player, invited him. But he said, okay, only if his friend from out of town could come too, which meant she had to scramble to find another date. And she ended up persuading this kind of naive freshman girl to join them. The date started late because of a football game, so they were rushing. Her date, his friend, they all took a quick shot of vodka before getting on a bus to meet the freshman and head to this boat party. And on the boat, she started feeling really, really uneasy about her date and his friend. They just felt off. Creepy. She actually spent most of the night just trying to avoid them, dancing with her friends instead. But the problem was, her keys were back at his apartment. So after the party, back near campus, she had no choice but to go with him to get them. And this is where things took a really bad turn. She found her keys pretty quickly, but by then, he'd already poured shots for them. Just her, him, and his friend now. She said no at first. She didn't want it, but they were really insistent, both of them, saying she had to take just one more shot before she left.
That insistence, it's a classic pressure tactic, isn't it? Even framed as just being social, it's coercion. It just wears down your boundaries, especially when you're already maybe feeling a bit uncomfortable or, vulnerable. That feeling like you have to go along with it can be really strong.
Yeah. And she doesn't remember a single thing after taking that shot. Nothing. This grab date was October 30th. The next morning, Halloween, she wakes up to this awful, terrifying beeping sound. Completely confused, no idea where she is, just terrified. She felt too weak to even move. Took her a few minutes to figure out the beeping was coming from a machine she was hooked up to. She just started yelling. Eventually, this grumpy nurse comes in, gives her a phone, but she was so out of it she couldn't even dial. Had to yell for the nurse to come back and help. She finally managed to call her dad, and she said later, that was the scariest Halloween he ever had. Getting a call from an unknown number, finding out his daughter was 2 hours away in the ER. She fell back asleep after the call. Woke up again and her dad was there in the room crying. He had told her she had stopped breathing. Multiple times that night. The first time was within half an hour of taking that last shot. And what's just horrifying is the guy, her date, he didn't call for help. He dragged her unconscious body and just left her on the steps of her sorority house. Luckily, another girl happened to be coming home right then, found her, and she was the one who called the ambulance. Thank God for her. At the hospital that morning, she was still so confused and just desperate to leave, she actually refused a drug test. She couldn't walk, had to be wheelchaired out, carried to her dad's car. Later, her dad's partner, who worked in the ER, said it sounded like a reaction to, roofies. A friend of her mom's, also in healthcare, said the same thing, but by the time she considered getting tested, the hospital said it was probably too late, it would be out of her system. Later that day, she went through her phone, found these frantic texts she'd sent to friends that night, begging for help, saying she was creeped out, scared, even worse. A text from the guy saying he wanted her to go to the bathroom and give him head. And when she texted him later asking what happened, telling him she woke up in the hospital, his reply was just, that sucks. Like it was nothing. And to top it all off, back at school, the rumor in her sorority was that she just had alcohol poisoning. People told her she was just embarrassed. She even got punished by the sorority, sent to standards, banned from the next grab date. She said hardly anyone, like maybe 1 or 2 girls, even asked if she was okay, which she clearly wasn't.
That part of the story is just devastating too. It really shines a light on that culture of victim blaming and how sometimes the very groups that are supposed to be supportive, like a sorority, can end up protecting the perpetrators even if unintentionally. The takeaway isn't just be careful about drinks, it's also understanding that even if you are wronged, the systems you expect to help might fail. Having your own strong support network outside of that is just crucial.
It's a really tough reality. The aftermath can be just as damaging. Okay, let's move to our second story. This one shifts from a party scene to the world of online dating, where sometimes profiles hide some pretty alarming things. This is about a woman trying Match.com after a really painful divorce, just trying to ease back into dating. She got a message from this guy, and right away his profile just screamed, "Not a match." He wrote this long thing about loving football, being annoyed by women who didn't get it, claimed to be a devoted Christian, a staunch conservative, none of which fit her. She politely declined, told him they weren't compatible, but that just seemed to encourage him. She'd say, "Look, I don't meet your criteria." And he'd come back with, "Maybe you're worth opening my mind for." This went on for a week or two. Her saying no, him being persistent, saying she was too interesting to let go. He even bragged that women usually threw themselves at him. Apparently he was some successful business owner, semi-pro athlete type, and that he found her reluctance sexy and endearing. She admits, okay, she was a bit flattered by the attention, the confidence, so she finally agreed to meet for dinner. She said he was decent looking, described him as a big hulk of a fellow. He seemed smart, witty, confident. Mentioned he was also recently divorced, had a 3-year-old daughter. Seemed okay, but she just wasn't feeling any real spark. And after a couple of hours, that self-assurance started to feel, well, somewhat obnoxious, as she put it. But for reasons she still doesn't really get, she agreed to get ice cream afterward. And she accepted his offer for a ride. They lived near the coast, and somehow he convinced her to pull into this secluded parking lot near a public beach just to chat and finish their ice cream. She let him kiss her. But when it started getting a bit too intense, she stopped it, said she was ready to go back to her car, and that's when it just went completely off the rails. He started whining, begging for sex, saying she couldn't just leave him turned on like that. At first she tried to laugh it off, treat it lightly, but he got more and more desperate, saying he was about to explode. Then he actually asked, "Can't you just suck it, or at least give me a hand job?" She was like, no, I think it's time to go now.
Okay.
He got all frustrated, annoyed, like he's offended she'd kiss him but not, sleep with him. She started getting really nervous then.
And you see how fast that boundary was just completely ignored. His expectation wasn't met, and boom, there's this sense of male entitlement there that just escalates incredibly quickly from her polite no to this aggressive pressure. It's a really dangerous mindset, and unfortunately, it's something society doesn't always challenge strongly enough.
What he did next is just wild. He literally took it out of his pants and started masturbating. Right there in the driver's seat. She said she was actually so relieved that this huge guy wasn't trying to physically assault her that she almost couldn't feel scared. She forced herself to look away, just trapped in this state of absolute horror and fascination. And he's just sitting there, going at it, moaning about how good it felt, while she's basically plastered against the passenger door trying to get away. Then, when he was almost done, he actually asks her, breathlessly, "Where do you want me to put it?" She didn't answer, obviously. He goes, "Where should I come? Can I put it on your tits, or can I at least give me your hand?" She ignored him, so he just finished. All over the steering wheel of his truck. Immediately after, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I just did that. But you are so sexy, I couldn't help it." And then, casually, asked her to pass him a napkin from the glove box so he could clean up. She thought about running, but the beach was dark and empty. Seemed maybe even more dangerous than staying in the car with this guy who was now done. So she let him drive her back to her car. He acted like nothing weird had happened at all, said he had a great time. The second she saw her car, she just bolted. Didn't look back. Went home, showered. Believe it or not, he actually messaged her again, asking for another chance. She immediately disabled her Match account, just vanished from online dating for months. Then, a few months later, she's at IHOP, having pancakes with her new boyfriend, who's now her husband, actually. And she sees him, the master dater, as she calls him, eating with a woman and a little girl, about 3 years old. Both the guy and the woman were wearing wedding rings. And the look of pure panic on his face when they made eye contact for a second. She felt pretty certain he'd been married the entire time they were talking. She really wanted to go over and say something, but the little kid was there. She couldn't do it.
It's really disturbing how someone can craft this completely false persona online, right? Masking such awful behavior, it just underscores the need for, meeting in public, safe places, having clear boundaries right from the start. And like you mentioned earlier, that vulnerability after a divorce, that longing for connection, it can sometimes make people more susceptible to persistent, unwanted attention. The story really shows that clearly.
It's a chilling thought. And location, matters so much. Our third story brings us to Brooklyn. A fun first date Familiar place, but it turned sinister fast. This shows even places you think are safe can hide threats. It involves a 22-year-old woman living in South Williamsburg at the time. She went on dates sometimes with guys she met online, mostly forgettable, until she met Dave. They agreed to meet at her favorite bar called Barcade, which sounds awesome actually. Lots of craft beers filled with classic 80s arcade games, Pac-Man, Galaga, all that. Still just a quarter to play. And she realizes now meeting there might have actually saved her life. So she meets Dave at Barcade, gets a beer, some quarters, challenges him to games. Started out fun, playing games, cheering each other on. But after a few rounds of Punch-Out, he started getting antsy. Lots of, hey, want to go back to my place, or let's get out of here, that kind of thing. She kind of blew him off at first, didn't think much of it. Figured he was just eager, you know. She still had quarters left. She finished her first beer, ordered a second. She mentioned she's pretty small, so 2 beers is usually her limit to stay sober.
And that's a pattern we see sometimes, isn't it? Those initial red flags, maybe seeming small, get rationalized away. You think, oh, he's just eager. He's just awkward. Instead of listening to that little voice saying something's not quite right, it's easy to dismiss your gut feeling when you're trying to be nice.
Yeah. Exactly. Then her absolute favorite game opened up. She ran over, excited, put her quarter in, and she was terrible. Just couldn't time anything, missed all the cues, didn't even get past the first round, which was super weird for her. She practically lived on that game, usually beat everyone. She mentioned it like, wow, I'm normally not this bad after just 1 beer, kind of wounded pride. And that's when he got even more insistent. No, seriously, let's go. It's too crowded here. Let's go somewhere quiet. She didn't get it. They'd only been there like half an hour. She wanted to play games, get to know him. She insisted on using her last 2 quarters, put another one in, determined to kick some ass this time. But now, she couldn't even hold the joystick right, let alone play. That's when it clicked. Something was seriously wrong. She realized she was in a really bad spot and needed to play it very cool. So she did what, well, maybe any freaked out 22-year-old would do. Excused herself to the bathroom and completely flipped the fuck out her words. Called her roommate, begged her to come get her. They live close. But the roommate was at her girlfriend's place in Park Slope, like a 15-minute cab ride away, and on a date herself. She pleaded, offered to pay for their date and the cab. Finally, the roommate agreed. While waiting, she just hid in the bathroom, getting more scared, feeling her motor skills declining minute by minute. Every time another woman came into the bathroom, she'd ask them, "Can you check if the guy I was with is still out there?" For the first 20 minutes or so, he was. Then people started saying he was gone, but she still felt too unsafe to leave. Stayed there on the phone with another friend, waiting for her roommate. Took about an hour, then her roommate finally walked in and basically carried her out. She could walk with help, so it was like a leaning carry. Her roommate was still kind of mad about her date being interrupted, so instead of going straight home, she took her to a nearby gay bar, the Metropolitan. She just got parked on a chair there for the next hour, while her roommate partied. Her memory's hazy about this part. Next thing she remembers is waking up in her own bed middle of the night with these crazy cramps and spasms all over her body, totally uncontrollable. Then nothing until morning. Just a really bad headache left. She never heard from Dave again. But 2 days later, she got this terrifying phone call from a blocked number. Some woman just yelled curses at her for 30 seconds, threatened to kill her, then hung up. She doesn't know for sure, but she has this strong feeling it was connected to Dave, to that night. She knows she was drugged. Thankfully, not assaulted further. She's incredibly grateful for that.
That story is just chilling. It really shows how important it is to listen to that internal alarm, that feeling when something is deeply wrong, even if you can't pinpoint it. Her quick thinking, even while impaired, was absolutely vital. And it also really highlights how crucial a support system is. Having someone to call, someone who will come, that can make all the difference. It takes real courage to ask for help like that, too.
Absolutely. It's amazing how instincts take over. Okay, our final story tonight. This one's about reconnecting with someone from the past, a childhood friend, through Facebook. Which sounds harmless, right? This woman reconnected with Luke. They grew up next door, played together constantly as kids, Lego, PlayStation, the usual stuff, until her family moved away when they were about 12. Years passed, she's in her 20s, usually ignores random friend requests, but she made an exception for Luke, her childhood buddy. They chatted a bit online, Elder Scrolls, Marvel movies, Formula One racing. His profile only had pictures of his car and his dog, no pictures of him. His posts were all about gaming. So she had no idea what he looked like now, just figured they shared some hobbies. But then the tone of their chat started to shift. He made inappropriate comments, which she tried to brush off as bad jokes. Then came the flirting. She told him straight up, "Look, I'm not looking to date anyone right now." He kept asking her out anyway. Sent her lots of invites to parties at his house.
But the invite seemed weird. It was always just her and a bunch of his male friends, no other women mentioned.
She felt he had, quote, no idea how to make a prospective female friend feel comfortable or safe. Definitely wasn't going to his house. But he kept messaging, played the nostalgia card, and eventually she agreed to meet him just for one drink, strictly as friends, a non-date. So Friday evening, the non-date happens. She's waiting on a busy street. Luke shows up, and she suddenly gets why there were no photos of him online.
She mentioned she's tall, 5'9", but slender. Luke absolutely towered over her, like a foot taller. He was overweight, big build, shaved head, covered in what looked like biker tattoos. She tried not to judge, but she was definitely surprised. He took charge, said he knew a place, his favorite place. Short walk, down some stairs, into this bar she'd never seen. And even though it's Friday night, the place is dead empty. Just them and the bartender. They ordered drinks. She specifically made sure to pay for her own, reinforcing the not a date thing, didn't want any sense of obligation. And over that one drink, Luke starts revealing his, well, twisted values. In detail. Those tattoos. Yeah, they were actual neo-Nazi symbols. And one reason he contacted her, because he remembered her family and knew they were, and this is his quote, really white. Then he starts complaining about the last girl he dated being part black, using a racial slur. She says, you can probably guess which one. She was completely repulsed by this point, and he was getting agitated just talking, even though she wasn't really engaging much. That was really starting to scare her.
That's a terrifying situation. It's almost just strategy, isn't it? Isolating someone in a dead environment like that, where there's no one else around to challenge or even witness this kind of hate speech, it really brings up the question of how you even respond in that moment when you're targeted, isolated, and genuinely afraid of provoking more aggression.
Right. She said she desperately wanted to just yell at him, tell him off, but she was afraid it would just make him more hostile, afraid to fan the flames. So she tried to stay neutral, calm, told him she wasn't racist, didn't agree with any of it, didn't know anyone, including his own parents, who she remembered, and reminded him, again, this was not a date. His response. He actually said, girls always say no to me until they say yes. She just thought, is this for real? Like maybe it was some horrible prank. He'd positioned things so her handbag was under his jacket on his side of the booth. She'd have to reach right over him to get it if she wanted to leave. She figured she sat there for maybe an hour, him nursing that one drink, just spouting his hateful, frankly incoherent ideas about life. You could tell nobody usually listened to him this long. He was getting more worked up, aggressive, threw in some misogynistic comments about feminism too, implying she had no right to disagree with him, trying to somehow bring her over to his way of thinking. Then he started touching her, moved his hand up her arm, around her neck. She shrugged him off. Tried again. She moved away. He tried to touch her leg. Then he just grabbed her arm and squeezed it. Hard. Bruised it. Like he was proving a point. That was it. The absolute final straw. She knew she had to get out no matter what. She pretended she was just going to the bar for another drink. Took only her purse out of her larger handbag, hoping he'd think she wouldn't leave the rest, and just made a beeline for the bar. Quickly explained to the bartender what was happening. Said she was scared. Asked if there was another exit or anything he could do. And this, she says, was maybe her fifth huge mistake of the night. The bartender just laughed. Laughed right in her face. Said, just go, he probably won't follow you. Unbelievable. So she had no choice but to run out the front door, up the stairs, right in his line of sight from the booth. She just ran. Didn't look back. Maybe the useless bartender was right about one thing, though, because Luke either didn't follow or couldn't keep up. He blocked him on Facebook immediately. But he somehow got her number and texted her every single day until she finally changed it. She reflects on it now, saying she doesn't feel proud of how she handled it, doesn't think she was smart or badass, feels kind of ashamed compared to stories she reads online. Says she's stronger now, had dealt with tough stuff before, but this just blindsided her. And she still doesn't understand how the kid she grew up playing Lego with turned into, well, that monster?
These 4 stories, they're all so different, but that common thread is definitely there. Recognizing danger, whether it's subtle or staring you in the face, and maybe even more importantly, trusting that gut feeling, that intuition telling you something is wrong. They really show how fast things can escalate when boundaries get crossed or when someone's intentions are just malicious. It's also strangely a testament to the resilience of people who go through these things.
Yeah, indeed. These stories are such a powerful reminder, aren't they? Be vigilant. Trust your instincts when you meet anyone new or even reconnect with someone. They show us that danger can pop up even in familiar settings, and that speaking up, getting help, or just getting yourself out of there, those are acts of strength. Huge strength. We really hope these stories resonated with you, maybe offered some perspective on staying safe out there. If you found this discussion thought-provoking, maybe important, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. That way you won't miss any of our future discussions.
Thanks for listening.